Table per concrete class mapping. So what will happen in table per concrete class mapping? Table per concrete class. For every concrete class, table is going to be get created. For every class, table will be created. And second point is, if you are going to provide values for weekday student, then that value is only going to be available in the weekday student. That value will not get inserted inside the student or current student. If you provide the value inside the weekend student, then that value is not going to inserted in the student or current student. That value only going to get inserted inside the weekend student. If you provide values inside the current student, that value is only will be available inside the current student, not inside the student. So this is what will happen in table per concrete class mapping. Let's create the table through the code first. Let's drop the database, create the database, use the database, and for table per concrete class, the things that you have to do is in the inheritance strategy, inheritance type, you have to change table per class. Table per class. For table per subclass mapping, it is going to be joined. For table per class mapping, for table per subclass it is going to be joined. For table per class it is going to be single table, and for table per concrete class it is going to be table per class. And you can remove this discriminator column and discriminator value because those belongs to table per class, and here it is table per class mapping. So table is going to get created for every class. So inside the current student, remove the discriminator, or what you can do right here, you can remove the primary key join column, which is helping in the table per subclass mapping. Just remove that. Simple table that you make, this, that's all, entity and table, nothing else. Remove the discriminator. Simple table again, not primary key column, join column. Again this simple table, entity and table. So look at this. In table per class mapping, table per concrete class, what you have to do is just entity, table, and inheritance type, table per class, and in subclasses there should be simple entity and table, like we used to do in the single mapping, simple mapping. So what will happen in this case? Let's run this code first. So we are inserting data's values through the weekday student. What will happen? Table is going to create it for every class. Table for student, old student, student, weekend student, weekday student. Table for current student is created, and then value is being inserted. So let's see values. Table for, let's see first. So tables. So these are the tables got created. Now we have to work through nothing is being inserted inside the student. Why this happened? Because I already told you, in the case of table per concrete class, whenever you are inserting values using the weekday student object, value is only going to be inserted inside this, not in the student, not in the current student. So we have to see current weekday student. Here you can see weekday student. Inside the weekday student table, our value is inserted. If we are going to see current student, it's empty, nothing is there. So that's all. Now let's compare all these: table per class mapping, table per subclass mapping, table per class mapping, and table per concrete class mapping. So here we run everything, table per subclass mapping. So these are the results of table per subclass mapping. What was happening there? So when we are using table per subclass mapping, for every class there is a table. You can see here, for every class, for a student there is a table, for current student there is a table, for weekday student there is a table, and every table is being in relationship with foreign key with the student table. So SID of student table and CID of current student is in relationship with foreign key constant. The weekday ID and SID of a student is in foreign key relationship. So there is a relationship between these. In case of table per subclass mapping, and whenever we are providing values inside the subclass, suppose we provided values inside the weekday student, then that value is going to be get inserted inside the subclass, which is a student. But in the case of table per class, where only single table is being created, what is happening is for every property, every field in every class, from every class, SID, email, name and phone belongs to a student class, batch, time and company belong to current student, and interview and other things belong to different class. So for every fields from every class will come together and create a single table. So in the case of per class mapping, we use discriminator column and discriminator value. What we do, we make one column inside the table and we assign discriminator value for every column, every table, discriminator value for every table, that from whatever table value is going to get assigned, the corresponding discriminator value of that table will be inserted inside the discriminator column. Suppose values got inserted from the weekend student inside the roll, then the corresponding discriminator value which is assigned to weekend student, discriminator value which is DWES, is going to be inserted inside the DIS, discriminator column. So this is what we are doing in case of table per class mapping. In the case of table per concrete class mapping, every concrete class is going to have its own table. Every concrete class, you can see here, every concrete class is having its own table. But what's happening here, when we are inserting data inside the weekend day student, data is not getting stored inside the student and current student. Data is only available inside the weekday student. So this is the whole overview for all these three inheritance mapping: table per subclass mapping, table per class mapping, table per concrete class mapping. So you have to practice that. Let me go through again. In table per subclass mapping, different table is being created and values got inserted inside the every table, and every table is in relationship with the master table using foreign key. SID is in relationship with foreign key of PID, which is column inside the current student. WDID is the column inside the weekday student, which is in foreign key relationship with the master table student with SID. In the case of table per class mapping, only one table is being created of every properties inside every classes. From the every properties or field from every classes, all fields come together and make a single table. And to understand from which class we are inserting the value, we use discriminator column and discriminator values. We provide discriminator values for every classes, and when we insert some certain data, then the discriminator value of that corresponding class get inserted inside the discriminator column. Inside table per concrete class mapping, what is happening is table is getting created for every concrete class, but when we are inserting value in, suppose, weekday student, table values is not being inserted inside the student. Values are only available in the weekend student. If we are inserting values in the, suppose, current student, that value is not going to first inserted inside the student. That value is only going to available inside the current student. So here there is no relationship between any class. Like inside table per subclass, there is relationship of foreign key. Here is no relationship of any foreign key or anything. If you insert data inside current student, that data is not available inside the student. That is only available inside the current student. So that's all for inheritance mapping. Just do the practice and you will get the idea what inheritance mapping is doing. So we will see another topic, which is association mapping. We have covered simple mapping, collection mapping. We have covered simple mapping, collection mapping, inheritance mapping. Inside that, table per subclass mapping, table per class mapping, table per concrete class mapping. Now it's time for association mapping that we will start in the next video.